so enormous that it was buried at the crash site and remains there today //. This is the oldest reference I have been able to uncover regarding a UFO so massive that it had to be buried in place. Everyone in the UFO community has heard the rumor about a UFO crash so enormous that it was impossible to move. It has been recently popularized by Ross Coulthart. Well, I have been doing some digging, and I think I have finally tracked down the origin of this story. The earliest mention I have been able to find of a craft described in these terms appears in a document published by John Lear back in 1987. You can check it out here. The document says, /Germany may have recovered a flying saucer as early as 1939. General James H. Doolittle went to Sweden in 1946 to inspect a flying saucer that had crashed there in Spitsbergen. There were several more saucer crashes in the late 1940s. One in Roswell, New Mexico, one in Aztec, New Mexico, and one near Laredo, Texas, about 30 miles inside the Mexican border. Thousands of sightings occurred during the Korean War, and several more saucers were retrieved by the Air Force. Some were stored at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Some were stored at Air Force bases near the location of the crash site. One saucer, so enormous, and the logistic problems in transportation so enormous that it was buried at the crash site and remains there today //. This is the oldest reference I have been able to uncover regarding a UFO so massive that it had to be buried in place. Where Lear got this information from is impossible to say. Personally, though, I wouldn't be surprised if he simply made the whole story up out of thin air. Why do I think that? Because it wouldn't be the first time. After all, Lear himself openly admitted that he had circulated fake documents within the UFO community while presenting them as genuine. In May 1989, Lear and Cooper were invited to appear on a tabloid television program, PM Magazine. The TV crew arrived at Lear's home to interview both Lear and Cooper. Later, Lear overheard Cooper telling the interviewer that, while he was on the naval briefing team in Hawaii, he saw the O.H. Krill documents in secret files, documents that I had received from John Lear in his original package of material in early 1988. I knew these documents were written by one John Grace, a then active duty U.S. Air Force NCO with an interest in UFOs. The name Krill was an inside joke taken from a late 1950s case where the U.S. Navy interviewed a woman claiming to channel an alien named Seal. Lear and Grace made up the initials OH out of thin air. Grace didn't want his name associated with the papers because he was still in the Air Force and wished to avoid adverse publicity. The actual OH Krill papers were barely over a year old at the time of the television program, making it impossible for Cooper to have seen them in 1972 or 1973. Lear recalled, when I heard Bill tell the interviewer he saw the Krill papers while he was in the Navy, I motioned him over and asked, "What in the bleep are you doing?" He said, "What do you?" I told him, "Bill, John Grace and I made up the Krill papers. We named them after a 1950s case, and we pulled the OH out of thin air." But Cooper insisted he had seen them in the Navy. That's when I really began to wonder about Cooper. So, at best, this is a story that Ross Coulthart picked up from John Lear, who in turn heard it from someone we can't identify and never will. At worst, it's a story that Coulthart picked up from John Lear, who simply made the whole thing up. Either way, it doesn't reflect particularly well on Coulthart.